Okay, so the sketch I'm going to be working on here is number 7. So it looks like it's a double page layout. Comes with quite a few photographs. I'm not going to use the same photographs, so I'm going to probably, I don't know if I'll blow up another one over here, because I actually might have a few more pictures of this. So I might end up doing maybe a big one and then do a couple small ones over here. So I'm not sure. So this was from a couple pictures of my daughter, and this was, we had gone to a butterfly exhibit here locally. So, and then you could let the butterflies land, and the kids loved it. So that's kind of what I'm going with. I'm gonna look and see if I've got more pictures that I can maybe utilize on that. And then I'm gonna use Tea Garden by Simple Stories. So I have had this paper for probably since the spring and have not used it yet. So, and then I've got a couple, since it's a double page layout, I end up finding a couple papers from Hip Kit Club that I think would work with the coloring of this pink. So this will probably be my strip going across, because it looks like there's a strip going across both layouts, and then your title here, some journaling, large title. So I don't know that I'll do 2 titles, but we'll just see kind of what I do on here. I'll hold it a little bit closer so you can see it. So I might see if I can find some additional pictures and maybe try to get a few more pictures on there. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I've, of course, cut my paper into strips. I end up just having the paper, so just cut it right down the middle. And then I am going to measure this with a ruler, trying to make sure that I've got it centered before I adhere it down, and we'll check that as well when I'm adhering it down. I'm not usually the best at like measuring things out, making sure that, like if I'm doing double page layouts, if everything's like measured out, a lot of time we'll just set the pages side by side and just kind of go from there and eyeball it. So really with the second one, once I get this one adhered down, I just pretty much put the next piece up next to it, and then we'll just kind of eyeball it and get it positioned there. I'm not much of like into measurements and ruling and cutting things exactly I'm not a super math-minded person, and so it just kind of irritates me a little bit, to be honest. And I end up getting myself more confused, so I usually just will eyeball stuff. I will, of course, use my T-square ruler if I'm doing a layout like this that does require a little bit of making sure that things are straight, then I will get my T-square ruler out. But when it comes to like cutting exact measurements, like if you ask me like, what did I cut this? I couldn't tell you, typically. I can't even really tell you what size my photographs are. I usually just cut them. We'll crop them based on the size that I need them. So that's actually what I was doing there with those, because I felt like I needed a little bit more space in between each photograph. And I did end up finding a couple more to get on here. So this will end up going in my daughter's album. So for the longest time, I wasn't sure how to organize my scrapbook albums, because I was like, I'll just put them in based on year, and then the kids can have a free-for-all and decide what pages they want. But I'm like, it makes more sense. And I think I had seen somebody where that's what they said that they did, is that they will chronologically do an album per kid. So that made more sense to me. So like this will go in my daughter's album from a couple years ago. And then that way it'll just be an album full of her. Of course, her brothers will be in there, but if she's like the main attention of the photographs, that's how I will end up getting all these different layouts organized. So then that way I can leave them to them when I am no longer here, and hopefully they will enjoy them. So anyways, I'm picking in different ephemera pieces. So it looked like in the sketch you had a couple banner pieces up at the top left. So those all have different phrases on them, and I apologize, I cannot read them when I'm doing these voiceovers. Look like some scallop pieces, so that's why I brought in like these like little small scallop borders there. That was in one of the ephemera packs. I end up moving those. I don't really end up doing the scallop pieces because I could have, you know, cut a paper and done that and, you know, done my own scallop punch and all that. But quite honestly, I really kind of felt like it would have like started to dip too far down, and so I just opted not to. And then in the sketch, it looks like the scallop is a pretty decent sized scallop, and I've got like a smaller scallop punch, so I felt like if I was going to do it, I would want kind of like that bigger scallop like it showed in the sketch. So I just opted not to. I will change out that down there with "You Are the Sunshine of My Life." So that'll be kind of, I guess, my secondary title. And then I'm just pulling on different pieces. So since we were in a conservatory where it's essentially like a big greenhouse, I decided the greenhouse on this layout would make sense. So I end up changing out that kind of trellis piece with that greenhouse piece instead. I really feel like that hip kit paper like really went perfectly with this, with the color of this collection. So I was happy to have it. I'm not usually a solid pack person. I don't usually buy solid papers, but I've been trying to do that a little bit more just because I do find like if I'm doing, you know, a double page layout, a lot of time you don't have two of the pattern papers, and so it makes sense to use, you know, two solid papers and then use your pattern paper to kind of accent your double page layouts. And this was really a great sketch. I really had quite a bit of these photographs of the kids at this butterfly exhibit, and you know, a lot of those wouldn't necessarily go great on just like, you know, a layout with 2 pictures or 3 pictures even. And so I really like this because it does get quite a few pictures documented. So this is actually held at Crone Conservatory, so it's in Cincinnati. And they do it typically, usually around March. I think this year it went a little bit later into maybe June or July. But I feel like they usually do the butterflies around March. We have not gone since this, but I really kind of want to go back because the kids really did enjoy it. Although it was hot in there, like you could see like in the pictures, maybe not in these ones, but like in the pictures, like later you could tell like we were all sweating, and they all had like long sleeve shirts on, and they didn't want to, like my son had on a jacket there, you can see he didn't want to take it off for some reason. And so he was just hot, although when we got outside, it was a little bit cooler, so that was kind of nice to get outside and cool off a little bit. So anyways, I'm just pulling in more ephemera pieces, not to, I was rambling, I guess, a little bit, but in this collection, it came with like a lot of floral pieces. It was a very heavy kind of gardening theme. It was really good for like spring layouts. And the color palette is, as you see there, like kind of had like a lot of mint green, kind of a lot more of that kind of like lime green color to it. So it was a really interesting collection because I feel like a lot of spring collections don't have that kind of coloring to them with it, where it's kind of got that lime green in it. So I just thought it was really pretty. And in fact, if you were interested in this, I'm pretty sure that right now they're selling this particular collection on their outlet store for reduced cost. So, and this is one that just came out this spring, so if you're interested in it, I would go and snatch it up. If you go to that outlet store, actually I'll just include the link down below so it'll take you right there if you're interested. But anyways, I kind of had a hard time with this layout. I think because I was trying really hard to closely follow the sketch, but then I was wanting to get florals on here, but obviously with the paper being floral, I wasn't going to put any more florals around the pictures because then they would get lost. So this banner piece up there, that was actually part of the cardstock stickers. I had de-stuck it. And then I kind of realized, I'm like, these pictures are getting lost on the screen. So I was trying to pull in different papers here to see if I wanted to individually mount the photographs, but then I'm like, I don't know if I would have enough paper for all that. So I was like, why don't I just cut a strip of paper? So then that way that would kind of pull the pictures back out from the background. So I found this pink paper, and that was in the collection, and decided just to do a strip and, you know, put all the photographs on that. Plus some of that was laziness. I really don't want to individually mount them. Really, this side I think would have been okay without this strip going down, because I felt like the pictures and the coloring of it, it wasn't green, so it didn't blend in as much. But I just felt like for continuity, to have this strip running down. And again, that goes to show you, you don't have to do exactly the same thing on each page of like a double page sketch or a layout. You can use the same papers, but just kind of, you know, you can rearrange them so that, you know, because back in the day, probably what I would have done was taken that same strip and gone straight across the other page too, which it wouldn't have made as much sense to do it that way. But I used to feel like your double page layouts, what was on one side had to be on the other side, and obviously I don't think that way anymore. I like the Smell the Flowers as my title. I did forget to talk about that because I was rambling, but that is part of the foam sticker set. And that little hat I just thought was so cute because it's pink, and you know, this is obviously going to be a very feminine layout. So that will move. It does make it onto the page, but it will not be in that position. And then I'm just trying to figure out what to put up in these corners of the paper. Not to say that like your layout has to be completely covered with everything, with, you know, things all over it. But I just felt like with the sketch, like there were like little elements kind of all over the page, kind of scattered. And so I was trying to capture that the best I could with, you know, the ephemera that I had. But I felt like it really didn't make sense to have a cluster of flowers up there by itself. So I decided that to pull those little scallop pieces that I initially had kind of down below that green floral paper, I decided to pull them up to that part of the cardstock there. And so you see that I moved that little pink hat over to that right side with that picture. And then this is where I was trying to maybe get some florals in here, but so I ended up putting florals behind the photographs, but then I'm like, it's getting lost on the page because of that floral paper. So I'm like, I really don't want to, you know, it doesn't make sense to cover up that pretty floral paper with more florals that are just going to blend in. So I've got 3 pieces there that you can see, but I do end up deciding not to do that. So, and then I like that floral piece up there to kind of finish off that top part of the paper. I wanted something tucked behind this secondary title, but I didn't want to do another floral cluster because then I felt like that would be a little bit too intentional looking. So I decided to pull in this little bird house with another floral piece there. And then that little tag there is where I'll journal and, you know, put the date and the year and what we were doing. So here's where I decided, like, these florals are just getting lost. It's no reason to have these on here because they're just blending in. And you can see I've got a bunch of butterflies and floral pieces scattered. I think I cut away from me throwing some of that stuff up there because a lot of it was me going through ephemera. There was like a little secondary greenhouse with the 3 little plants. I decided to put that up on the right-hand side of the bigger photograph just to really capture the fact that we were in a greenhouse. But I also thought that was kind of just a cute little piece there. I wanted to tuck some florals in here because I was like, well, that won't get lost as much because I'll have that greenhouse piece in front of it. So I do try to pull in some florals here to see what I like. I just said that one was way too big. I'm like, yeah, that's way too big. And the reason why I chose Smell the Flowers as my title, even though we were technically at a butterfly thing, the conservatory actually has like a whole gardening area where you go through before you go in to see the butterflies. So that's part of the pictures where she's holding on to like the yellow flower and checking out the flower. We were actually in kind of the well, I don't want to say garden area, more the area where they had a lot of the plants growing. And so then I was trying to figure out clusters on this page. The bottom right, I wanted something down there. So I'm obviously I end up pulling on a bunch of stuff. So you'll see me kind of doing that. Just going through different pieces. I definitely wanted the sun up there, even though we weren't outside. I just thought it was kind of a cute, just cute up there. And again, this video is a little long, but some of it's because it is a 2-page layout. See, so I'm trying to figure out what to do down here, and it's just like I felt like everything I was putting down there just kind of looked awkward. So here's where I do end up pulling in a scallop piece. I just thought that would add a little bit more down there and kind of help fill in some of that gap. And then I decided just to pull in some of the cardstock sticker phrases. I'm not sure what all of them say. I know like one's like bloom and grow. One says you are my sunshine, kind of those variations. And then I'm gonna put a couple butterflies up here at the top. And then by the Smell the Flowers, I did want some like little flowers peeking up. I just felt like that kind of looked a little bare around the title. And so I pull in some of these, just these single florals or single flowers, and I kind of spent a lot of time going through trying to find pieces that would work up there. So I ended up cutting away because my hand kept getting in the way. So I finally did find a couple smaller florals to go here that I felt worked. I kind of wanted them to look like they were kind of growing up out of that green, floral paper there. And then I add a couple butterflies up there to the top. And then I'm going to add in some bees, and then I will go off screen here and glue everything down. And here are a couple close-up shots. I will include the playlist down below for the YouTube channel, so the people playing along on YouTube, as well as the Facebook group, so you can come and join us if you would like. And I appreciate you for coming by to watch another process video.